as a fan, you try and find where the problem is and what the problem is.
Yeah.
And in general, the easiest thing to point at would be the manager, wouldn't it? Because it's easier to get rid of one person than it is to get rid of 6 or 7 in the team.
Hello, welcome to Stretford, Paddock. This is Off the Bar, and today we're going to be talking about, well, basically, this gap between this international break and the next international break and how crucial it is for Erik ten Hag. And I've got some stuff I want to say about this because I think it's getting ridiculous now. But we're going to have a look at that. We'll also be looking at the players and what they can actually do to help turn this situation around. Because it's not just the manager, even though he's the one who's going to get sacked. Jay's here, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. A big thank you to Green King Sport for sponsoring his podcast. And we've also got Jim from the Slow Readers Club with us.
Are you okay?
It's weird because me and you usually chat on the brews. This is the first time we've chatted on it.
Yeah, they said I'm a non-brew virgin.
Right, okay.
So I'm all in now, aren't I?
Sounds lovely. Non-brewed condiment, have you heard of that? That's what vinegar is at the Chippy. It's not actually vinegar, it's called non-brewed condiment.
Brilliant.
Where do you get these facts from?
That's why it's not quite as vinegary as the stuff you have at home.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
More of it at the Chippy.
I was going to say, they hammer it on in the Chippy.
Yeah, because it's not, people think it's watered down, it's not, it's just not vinegar. It's a different thing entirely.
Right, okay.
Anyway, we're not talking about that. What we are going to be talking about...
We can talk about that a bit longer if you want.
We can do.
This is, less depressing than talking about Manchester United right now.
I want to get into this because every single time Man United have a game, it could be the last of Ten Hag's career.
Oh, it's getting ridiculous,
It's getting ridiculous. We predicted it before the season. Everyone at home knew this was coming because of the sort of rigmarole of the manager search in the summer, and before that, because of the poor performances in the league last year, Ten Hag was always going to be on thin ice this season. But it feels like the start has been atrocious, I'll give you that. But then at some point, if they're sticking with him, we need to say, right, you've got the next chunk of games to prove yourself. It's not rolling contract stuff, because it's getting ridiculous where after every game we have to sit here and people sit at home, everything you read about United in the press, on TV, on YouTube, on social media is, well, was that the final straw? Was that it? And I know certain games like the Tottenham game had a big significance. It felt like a bit of a turning point. So between now and the next international break, United have got Brentford, Fenerbahce, West Ham, Leicester in the League Cup, Chelsea, PAOK and Leicester in the Premier League again. That's your chunk of games there. Do you think, Jay, that we need to almost forget the manager sack talk until after them? Do we think that at some point he deserves, or not even deserves, but if we're going to run the club the way they think that we're running it, he needs to have a bit of pressure off him just for now, and the players need a little bit of pressure just for now? Is that possible? Is that feasible?
You'd like to think so, because I get fed up of sort of talking about the manager being under pressure and this whole, if he loses the next game, is this going to be the end? But you can't ignore it. This is the issue, and the difficulty you've got is if we lose at home to Leicester in the league, or if you lose to Brentford or whatever, then the pressure's piled on again, because the sort of the weird thing about this run of fixtures is the winnable, which is a positive, obviously, because you could easily win all these games, and then that quietens the noise and everyone's happy. But that is also the problem if you don't win them. People look at it and they go, okay, losing to Liverpool is one thing or whatever, but losing at home to Leicester or losing at home to Leicester again, or to Brentford or Chelsea even. Look at the fact that Maresca's just come in there and they were a bit of a bin fire last season. You're going to get criticism. And I know a lot of people go, you keep talking about the manager's future, but it's hard to ignore it when you've had Sir Jim Ratcliffe give that interview where he wasn't very emphatic about his backing of Erik ten Hag. We know that Ineos didn't quite 100% love him because they looked at other options. There was all the noise around what went on with Tuchel and did United miss out on him and all that sort of stuff. So I want Erik ten Hag to succeed. I want Manchester United to be able to move forward without all this speculation. But to do that, you have to win football matches. And the fact that you've got another international break on the horizon, which is insane, that kind of adds to the problem, because it's almost like there's a gap if things did go wrong, where you can go, oh, actually, we could get rid of them. And add on to that, you've got Ruud van Nistelrooy sort of sat in the dugout, everyone just assumes could be the new caretaker if things did go wrong. So it's not great, and I wish we didn't have to sort of have these conversations, but you have to be honest, because you both know that if United was to say lose 4 of the next 7 games, whatever it is, then the manager would be on all sorts of pressure. And I'm sorry it's come to that, but that's what happens when you have the season we had last season in terms of the league, and you've had the start we've had this season.
What do you reckon?
I just think we need to start scoring goals. I know it's simple, but we were just speaking before we come on, and it's to win games you need to score. We're creating a few chances. We're creating I don't know how many it is exactly, but I feel when I'm watching United, I feel like we are creating stuff, but it's just not going in. And I don't know. I know the manager's under pressure, and I think us as fans and all that, we just want to see us winning.
Yeah.
And it's an easy thing to say, let's get rid of the manager. And obviously, the press might love that because it's another United fucking shambles, whatever. But I don't know. I just think Ineos, they must have this vision. You don't just put all that money into a club and just start reacting to stuff. And I think there's a plan there. If it does go a bit tits up in this next run of games, then this is what's going to happen. And if it doesn't, and they start seeing some differences on the pitch, some wins or some convincing victories or certain ways we're playing or whatever it is, then they might say, well, we're going to stick at this. But I just don't think that they sat there thinking, we'll give them another few games. Oh, fuck, what we're going to do now? We better go and get someone. But I don't know. It's United, isn't it? When we lose 2 games in a row or we don't win 2 games in a row, it's a fucking travesty and everybody starts going mad. And I don't know, but I think ultimately fucking scoring goals, and I know it's obvious. That's what we need to do.
You're right, and I think we can get into that a little bit, can't we? Because me and you have been speaking about the lack of goals since the season almost started. I mean, we obviously had that win over Fulham, the 1-0. We lost to Brighton 2-1, and other than the Southampton game, goals have cost us.
Yeah.
They have cost us, because you look at it and you go, not necessarily even some games where you go, okay, we'd have lost that anyway, or we weren't really in it, or whatever. Like, I look at that Liverpool game and you think, we lost 3-0, the game was done, but you get a goal, you just don't know. Like, we should have scored in that game. Xerxes could have had a couple. That can get the crowd going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These aren't seem like Liverpool. I know they're doing well around the slot, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they have a wobble if we get at them. Spurs, I know we're down to 10 men and that kind of rude game, but you think if you get a goal, that might have, even if you've got an early goal, that can change the whole complexion of the game, because we're just not creating enough chances, and the chances we are creating, we're not taking. And 5 goals in 7 Premier League games, 3 of which came against Southampton, is just ridiculous. It is, and it's weird because you look at the players and you go, almost all our strikers and attackers I quite like. I look at Marcus Rashford, I look at Diallo, I look at Garnacho, I look at Xerxes, I look at Højlund. They've all got traits and attributes that I like, and I like them as players. I think they're good players. I don't think they're terrible, but they're just not scoring enough goals between them or individually for a multitude of reasons, and this is a problem that needs fixing, because if we're going in through these fixtures, you can't make excuses for not getting goals against the likes of, no disrespect to them, West Ham and Leicester and Chelsea, who are conceding goals, including Brentford. Brentford score goals, but they concede them as well, don't they? What do you put it down to, Joe? I know it's a difficult question, but what do you think this is? Is it chance creation, or is it not taking, or is it both?
I think it's more not taking it, because also, I know this is just obvious, but you can't. There's no stat for how many chances you would have created once the opposition's got their head down a little bit. We're playing against 0-0 opposition defences who are fully alert, fully on it. We're in with a chance of winning this game. You get 2 goals, the third and fourth come a lot easier than the first and second.
Once they have to try and score against you.
Yeah, exactly. They have to come out and try against you. They've also lost a bit. They're a bit demoralised. Like, look at the Barnsley game, for instance. The 7th goal went in. Those last couple where Eriksen just pinging him in. Like, it was basically like Barnsley weren't there. Yeah. I know they didn't start particularly well either, but the games get easier when you're winning, and that's something that we've not had under Ten Hag at all, really. It's a big problem the whole time he's been here, but it's not just Ten Hag. Other than that season under Jose and a couple of years under Ole, United have really struggled to score goals for the last 10 years. Yeah. More often than not, we're struggling to score goals. And that's down to a few different things. Obviously, tactics is one of them, confidence of the forwards. The other big thing that we have to admit is our forwards aren't massive goal scorers.
No.
Rashford is when he's doing his Rashford season. When he's not, he isn't.
No.
And, depending on what season you're getting out of him. And I think this year, actually, he's been a lot better than he was last season. But so far, the goals haven't sort of followed the way you might like. And even if they do, he can't be the only one. Ahmad, was it 16 goals he got in the Championship, or 13
I think it was.
13 goals in the Championship, which is good, but we've seen Tom Ince do sort of double those kind of numbers and not be Premier League level. Like, Højlund is one that's up and coming, but he's missed a handful of games already this season with injuries, and Xerxes isn't a goal scorer. So we go back to the season when we scored, I think it was 100 goals in all competitions. You had Martial, Rashford and Greenwood. Mason Greenwood undoubtedly a goal scorer, no question about that. Marcus Rashford had one of his 20-plus goal years, and Martial, we got the best that anyone's ever got out of him for one season. And altogether, that was enough to, we didn't win any trophies, but we pushed really hard and we won games by big scorelines and we were consistently getting goals. But you swap some of those players out for players who don't score as many goals, and you're going to score less goals. Like, I know I'm being a bit simple with it, but you put Haaland and Salah in alongside Rashford, there's another 60 goals this season. And, people will say that City make more chances and all that. Look at Haaland, everywhere he's been. He's been averaging a goal a game since he was about 15, regardless of the club he was at. He keeps doing it for City, which is remarkable and impressive. And Salah did go up a level when he went to Liverpool. But, top players are just top players. And goal scorers are just goal scorers. They tend to do it wherever they are. So I do think that's a big problem. And the fact that we're not able to either identify the right players in those positions or get the best out of the ones we've got is a separate issue. But fundamentally, we don't have many players who can score loads of goals. And that's a bit of a worry for me. And I'm sure it's a worry for Ten Hag and the coaching staff as well. Does that worry you? We don't have 30 goal a season players.
Yeah, it's like we're hoping that Marcus Rashford's going to have one of his great seasons, or a season where he scores 20 plus. We're hoping for that. It's not expected. He's had a decent start. We're hoping that Rasmus Højlund's going to kick on from last season. We're also hoping that the likes of Diallo and Garnacho and Xerxes can get to double figures, because that's not a given. No. The trouble is, like you mentioned there, you've got Salah, you've got Haaland or whatever. They're players you look at, you go, they're going to get you 25, 30 goals minimum this season.
You tend to find there's only one of them in every team, don't you?
That's true. And what you might have with that, you'll have, like you say, you've got one of them, but say Liverpool, for example, let's just use them. Like Salah might get you 30 goals, and then you might look at someone like
Darwin Núñez.
He got 20 last year. Diaz might get you 15. Gakpo might get you 12. Jota might get you, he's quite a goal scorer, so he might get you 13, 14, or even a little bit more. The problem you got at United is, if you go back to Ten Hag's first season, where Rashford was that guy in terms of goals, 17 in the league, 30 in all competitions, so very good numbers, but then there was a bit of a drop-off. Then I think it was Bruno, and then it was Sancho. And the issue, the thing that worries me is you might have our top scorer on 16, 17, and the next scorer might be on 9 or 8.
Yeah, it's a big drop.
Do you know what I mean? That's maximum concern. I don't mind it if you haven't got an out-and-out goal scorer, if everyone's weighing in. I've seen that before. I remember years ago when I first started, well, not when I first started, but when, the first Premier League sort of almost season, you'd have, Eric and Mark Hughes weren't prolific. They'd get 15, 16 goals each. But then Andre and Chelsea would get 12.
All chip in,
Giggs would get 10. Do you know what I mean? Ince would get 7 or whatever. Yeah. There was goals throughout the team. Do you know what I mean? Steve Bruce would get you 7 goals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
It was like United had scored loads of goals without having anyone near 30 goals that season or around that amount. But you had goal scorers, and it also makes it difficult for the opposition because it's goals are coming from everywhere. It's not just a case of you keep, one player quiet and that's them done. It was the goals coming everywhere.
Off the Bar once again is brought to you by Green King Sport, where football is more than just a game, and there's loads of big fixtures to check out this weekend. Tottenham with a little London derby against West Ham on the early kickoff, and on Sunday 4:30 it's Liverpool versus Chelsea as well. So do the best thing you can do, get your mates and head down to your local Green King Sport pub to check out all the action.
If you use the Green King Sport app, you'll be able to find your nearest pub, and you'll even get 10% off your drinks for the entire game. If you've not signed up before, you'll get a free pint on the house. We've linked the app in the description. Go and check it out, and a big thank you to Green King Sport. Now with United at the minute, I feel like I'm just hoping rather than expecting it, and that's the big worry for me.
There's loads of pressure on Højlund, isn't there?
Yeah.
Our expectation on him, because we signed him as a goal scorer, and then I can't remember who it was against. It was in Europe where he scored a goal where he took it from the halfway line.
Galatasaray, I think it was. I think so.
And he cut in, and then the keeper come out and he dinked it over him, and he skinned the defender who was trying to keep up with him. And I remember watching that thinking, fucking hell, we've been crying out for this, and this is the one. And then I've always felt with him though, he'll have a few games and then there's an injury, or he's out for a few games and then he's in for a few games, he's out for a few games. And I just think, and I'm not making excuses up, I just think that psychologically it takes its toll on you, because he's getting in he might be in the starting 11 and then he's thinking, I've got to fucking score a goal here. And I know all strikers want to score goals in it because it's the job and they've got to score goals, but there's so much pressure that he'd be putting on himself because he wants to score a goal, and then if he doesn't, he might think, right, in a few games' time, I might not be starting, or, you know, as happened in the past, he's been injured, and we've just never had that. We've never had that consistency all throughout Ten Hag being in. We've never had where you'd go, that's the starting 11, you know, and that this is the one we'd pick. And I just think it's so difficult when you're playing with random players every week. And again, I'm not making excuses of. I just think it's one of them things, and I just fucking hope as a United fan that at some point, definitely within these run of games that we've got now, that we start to turn it on. But I'm like that every game. Yeah. Every game, whether it's an hour before kick-off, or it's a day before kick-off, or a minute before kick-off, I think, this is it now. This is the turning point, and the season's going to turn around, and we're going to kick on, and we've just not. Yeah,
it's been like that for 18 months. I know,
it's been
since like the Carabao Cup final that we won. It's kind of been like, right, we'll get back. Come on, here we go. Here it is. And then you watch it and you go, that wasn't it today. The annoying thing is, the couple of times I've been like, that was really good. We drew against Palace. It's like, it was a great performance for like 70 minutes, but then we didn't even win, so I can't even celebrate that. And like, I thought we were good against Brighton, and we lost. Yeah. Like, even the ones where we play quite well, we're not getting the 3 points to go, I can just be happy about today. It's like, well, the performance was quite good. How many points did we get? None. Like, that's just so deflating, isn't it? Like, even look at some of the wins last season as well, on the other hand. Like, this season, we've played well a couple of times and not won. Last season, almost every time we did win, we were shit. Yeah. Do you remember that Wolves game at the start of the season where it was like, the 1-0? What is going on here?
That was, and they should have had a penalty, and it was
terrible.
Yeah, right. There was that one.
There's an arm on it where he punched someone.
And even like we did the Wolves away, which obviously was different because Manu got the winner, and it felt great. But I remember we was on the watch song. We was in control of that game. Yeah. Completely in control.
2-1 up.
2-1 up, whatever it was. I think at one point, was it 3-1 or whatever? Or there was I'm sure there was at some point there was a 2-goal cushion. I'd get my maths wrong. But you think we're absolutely cruising, and then before you knew it's 3-3. Yeah. And you're like, how have we just fallen apart? And then thank God, Manu pops up with the winner. But then you make a great point, because you look at, the Brentford game where Scott McTominay scores 2 in the last 30 seconds or 2 minutes, whatever. It was sort of a bit difficult, very difficult at times last season, with Manchester United. One thing that worries me is a little bit, like you mentioned, Jim, is confidence, because these are young players, and someone like Rasmus Højlund, who was 20 years old, he got a £70 million move to Manchester United, took a while to get going in the Premier League. Then once he did, he had a little bit of a purple patch. Obviously scored in the Champions League. A lot of pressure on that young lad's shoulders, because ideally you'd have liked him to come in with someone else to sort of, he was the
share the burden a bit,
or even like Martial going, this is Manchester United, I'll show you what to do. Like Martial was immediately the understudy to this 20-year-old. Like, it'd be nice coming with Kane ideally, but if not, at least have someone already at the club who's competent, who can kind of guide you in. It would have
been great if we'd have had like, a Cavani when he first arrived with
fucking amazing.
With Højlund, because then you've got someone who weighs in with goals, who you can learn from, and also, if you rotate, it's not an issue. Because it's a good point about Højlund, because I feel like with Højlund, he gets a lot of scrutiny, he gets a lot of criticism. I noticed he gets quite a bit of stick. He was getting some stick in the Euros as well, for what he did for Denmark. And then you look as well at the FA Cup final, he got dropped in it for that, and now it worked, playing that brilliant false nine. But it can't be nice as a young lad, and it's the FA Cup final, and you're a star striker, and you dropped. You can word it however you want. Oh well, we did.
Was he not our top scorer as well at the time?
I think he probably was. Yeah, I think he was. So that must have been a bit difficult for him. I know, obviously, he handled it well, but if you're a striker for Manchester United and you're top scorer, and then it's the FA Cup final, it's probably the only highlight of the season after what's been a difficult season. You get told you ain't starting. It must be difficult to swallow that. And I do like Højlund, and I do think there's a player there. I worry, like with Højlund, like with Ten Hag, like with a lot of what's going on at the minute. How much patience have we all got? How much patience has the manager got with him? How much patience have Ineos got? And the bigger issue for me as well is we've decided to bring in another striker who scores fewer goals than Højlund. Like, if we'd gone out and gone, right, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go and bring in Ivan Toney, for example. And then Højlund, you're still a lot younger than him. You're 8 years younger than him, or 7 years younger than him. You can learn from him. You can rotate. He's going to be a main goal scorer, but you're still going to be...
And there's less pressure on you to score goals.
But now it's not. It's like kind of added to the pressure for Rasmus Højlund, because Xerxes come in, and you look at his record, and it's very similar to Højlund's in terms of goals, if not a little bit less. So it just feels like, there is
It's a weird signing, isn't it? Like,
just
find it a bit Why? I don't know. I'm just.
I think,
I'm overanalyzing everything with United at the minute. If it works, no one. You won't be asked. You just go, "Oh, it's fucking working." But because it's not, as a fan, you try and find where the problem is and what the problem is.
Yeah.
And in general, the easiest thing to point at would be the manager, wouldn't it? Because it's easier to get rid of one person than it is to get rid of fucking 6 or 7 in the team. But it's just I really don't know what the issue is, but we just need to start putting the ball in the net, and it could start happening this weekend. You never know.
No, you're right. We've spoken about attacking goals and lack of goals as well. We've not really mentioned the midfield much, and I just think that's been a sort of hot topic, hasn't it, recently? With obviously Mainoo's out for 7 games.
That's these 7 games, by the way.
Yeah, so he's out. He's out.
So he's out for that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, that for it to now makes life difficult for him as well, because Mainoo's basically never present now, isn't he?
He probably needs a fucking break though. And again, there's another one. Massive pressure on his shoulders. How old is he? 19 or something?
Yeah,
like that. I don't even know. And he really, if you ask, I'd say the vast majority of United fans, who is your top player at the minute, it would be him.
Yeah.
And at United, to be the top player as a 19-year-old, it's like, fucking hell, something's not right, isn't it? And I know he's good. I'm not saying he's not good. He's fucking brilliant, but he is like our hope, and it shouldn't be on his shoulders to carry that burden, should it really?
I think that's a good point, because we all love Mainoo, and I think he is generational. I know you don't like that word, but for him, I think he is that good. But there is always that danger that you can ruin him.
Yeah.
You can, Marcus Rashford, when he burst onto the scene, scored loads of goals, scored the winner in the Manchester derby, scored the winner against Arsenal, scored 2 on his debut, scored on his England debut. Everyone was absolutely adamant this kid's going to absolutely smash it.
I remember watching him thinking he's going to be fucking unreal.
He's going to break, Rooney's record or Bobby Charlton's record or whatever it was at the time. And I'm not saying Marcus is not a good player, but there's an element of, did he quite live up to that expectation? And the way he was handled, playing with injuries, playing him out of position, loads of pressure on him.
Desperation.
There's a danger with Kobbie Mainoo. The same thing can happen where you're playing him when he's not 100%. He's already this season, he's been asked to do a lot of sort of hard work in midfield. Where you look at, was it Villa, it was just him and Eriksen. Southampton, I think, was him and Eriksen. Like, we all love Christian Eriksen again, but he's not got much legs there in the midfield. So you're putting Kobbie Mainoo there. Does that worry you, Joe, about Mainoo?
I don't want him. I never know how much of a player's career is sort of damaged by just what they would sort of, I don't like the word destined, but what their talent and their skill set and their mindset would have made them be anyway. Some people just force their way through bad situations and managerial upsets and all that. But I do think the next thing is the team that you're playing in. Like Rashford's, unfortunately, if you could pick a time from the last 40 years to spend 9 years in the United squad,
it's not this one.
He's picked the worst 9, hasn't he? Like, it literally, even if he'd arrived in 1981, he still would have been like part of the next wave of oh my God, by the time my career ends, I might be winning a Premier League title here. He started at 18 years old, and this is 9th season, I think, and we've been bad for almost all of it. Which is, I feel a little bit sorry for him on that front, but then you don't know whether he would have just been the same player regardless, so it's hard to know. But the other one is, like you said, the desperation element of it, because we're never winning, and we're not winning consistently enough, and we're not ahead consistently enough, and we score 58 goals a season, so even when we are winning, it's by 1 goal. You have to play the full 90 minutes. So not only are you pushing through injuries more often, you can rest less often, but also he's got in his legs at 27 probably a 30-year-old's sort of history and sort of track
injuries
record.
And all that.
He's had more minutes on the pitch than he should have. Because he should have been 100%. Brought in for 20 there, 30 there, taken off at 60 there, 70 there, and instead he's playing 90 after 90. I know he came off at half-time the other week, but throughout his career generally, he's been relied on way more than he should have. So then now you're looking at a player who has had 30-goal seasons, which we looked in the last decade, the only wingers that have done that in the Premier League are Salah a handful of times and Raheem Sterling once. So it's not like wingers often do this. He has had exceptional seasons, but I just think like Mainoo could be the next one where we look at it in 10 years' time and go, he's been playing 50 games a season every year. And everyone around him has played fewer than that because he's the only one you could rely on. That could damage him, and I hope it doesn't. And I don't think Rashford's ruined by any means either, but I do think Mainoo should be treated as a kid. And just because he happens to be one of our best players, think of him as a person and as an athlete and an asset over just what can he bring to United this week against Brentford.
It's difficult, and I'm sort of glad, not glad, but I'm not too fussed that he's missing these games, because I genuinely think at some point he needs rest, or he needs taking out of a shit team.
Yeah.
To hopefully the team starts, like we've just said before, turning a corner, and then he comes back in to an improved team and makes it even better. But I just think it's one of them. He's injured. He's not going to be playing, and it's the other players have to step up now and fill the gap that he's been plugging, because as a young kid, really, as much as I don't like using that phrase, he shouldn't have all the pressure on him. But then again, us as fans, if he was fit and he wasn't playing, we'd fucking kick off. Yeah. Say, why is he not playing?
Yeah, he's dropped in for 7 games.
But it's only because everyone else, like, I'm not saying that the full team, everyone's being shit, but because as a team we're not performing, you take out one of your better players, as fans will kick off about it. But if we're playing well and you take Mainu out, you go, all right, well, he's just took him out for a few games, and you deal with it and you don't moan about it. But ultimately, it all just comes down to, if we're winning games, it's fucking easy. If we're not, it's a joke. I
think with Mainu as well, part of the sort of, if you can call it the issue, or part of the pressure is with England, because this is a kid who forced his way in that England team. He wasn't first.
He was never planned.
Choice,
he was never planned to be.
It was going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold in that role. That didn't work out. Then it was Conor Gallagher. That didn't work out.
He initially wasn't even called up, was he?
No,
remember? He was on this sort of emergency list.
Yeah.
And then they were like, actually, we should probably upgrade this guy.
He's fucking decent.
It was like a campaign, wasn't it? Where I think after the Liverpool FA Cup game, it was like everyone was like, you cannot ignore this kid. And then he gets into the squad. And then it was like anyone but him. People say, play Trent Alexander-Arnold in that role. Play Wharton. Play Conor Gallagher. Don't play Mainu. And then, Mainu just forces his way into that team by his performances and forces his way all the way to the Euros. But there's always been this almost whispering campaign against him, where you'll have fans of any other club than United, or just England fans in general, going, it should be Wharton, it should be.
They do, don't they?
It should be. Mainu's overrated and all the rest of it.
Yes, it should be. And speaking of overrated, it should be Alexander-Arnold in there instead, playing a position he's not played in his 25 years on it.
Yeah, it's just nonsensical. Yeah, and it's that sort of. And I know, look, he can handle it, but it's more games that he's playing. It's more pressure. It's more scrutiny. It's more expectation, because the expectation for Mainu. The expectation at the end of the season was to win the Euros with England. That's what we got to.
Yeah.
If you don't win the Euros with England, you failed.
He was arguably a teenager, the most consistent player in that tournament.
Yeah,
I thought.
That's it.
Everyone else was Kane was nowhere near it. Saka was maybe in that conversation as well. He was okay, but he had games where he didn't do anything. The rest of the midfield looked way off it. Foden and Bellingham, neither of them looked any good.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I thought Mainu was probably our best player. And then,
but according to the press, he wasn't, was it?
They couldn't wait to hammer him.
Yeah,
was it the Iceland game or whatever, where he was blamed for the goal, or I can't remember what game it was.
Yeah, they love it, don't they?
Yeah, that last friendly before the tournament.
And it was writing him off already. Well, you can't play him now. I was like, are you stupid if you actually watched him? And then obviously he exceeds expectation. Even then in the final, because he had a bit of a quiet game, people go, you got found out. It's like, have a word with yourself. We should be grateful we've got a player like him, but we need to use him in the right way. And part of the issue you've got at the minute as well is, like you say, I understand none of us want to see him injured, but we do want to see him rested.
Yeah.
The problem you've got is you look at that midfield, it's deeply flawed, isn't it? Because Casemiro, what's going on with him? Is he done? Is he in decline?
I was surprised he stayed after the summer. I thought it was nailed on for him to go, but
you would have thought so, wouldn't you? I don't know if the wages were a sticking point, or if there wasn't the sort of the clamour to buy him that we thought there would be. Your guy, he's just come in. Obviously, he's new, but he's got to find his feet in the Premier League,
and he might be injured as well.
Yeah,
now.
and he might be not 100% fit. Yeah. Then you've got Eriksen, who's actually probably doing better this season than we expected, but he's 32.
He died.
He died. I'm not trying to be, flippant.
I'm not saying that. No, same here.
He did. He literally, he went through a lot, and people thought he wouldn't play football again. Now he's playing football and he's doing well. But my point is, you look at that midfield. There's an issue with these players. It's like, is Eriksen still the player he used to be? Can he handle it on his own, or as part of a two? Does he not need a third one with him? Even Bruno, the most reliable midfielder, United have had in years. Yeah. He's gone off the boil.
I remember I seen a thing Paul Scholes did an interview a few months ago, and I remember him saying it really sort of stuck with me because I love Paul Scholes anyway, a proper fucking fanboy. But he said he thinks Bruno tries too hard and does too much, and I remember him saying in his interview, like, if you're on the pitch and you look to your right or your left, it could be anywhere. Bruno could be like 20 yards that way, or 40 yards back that way, and he was kind of making a point that just sometimes stick to your position and be a bit more consistent or reliable as to where you're going to be, because your teammates might have the ball, and sometimes you need to play a quick pass, and you've got to trust that your teammate is going to be there. And with Bruno, because he can be everywhere, then there are gaps that are created in other parts of the pitch that other players are trying to fill in. But I'm not moaning about him, because he has definitely been one of, if not the best player for the last few years that we've had. But yeah, sometimes, and I have more recently, especially recently, last few games, watched him and thinking, he's probably doing too much. But then he's probably looking around thinking, I've got to fucking do more, because
I'm the captain.
Yeah, because
I'm
no one else is.
I need to overcome the fact that we're all terrible. But
exactly.
I think he's inadvertently not helping.
Yeah.
Because he is trying too much and we're losing the ball more and he's wasteful and all that, and he seems like he's getting pissed off. Like it's just crap how just everyone's crap, isn't it? Like, looking at these fixtures,
we're going to turn a corner, though. You know that, don't you?
But do you know, like,
I've been saying that since 2014.
But we had these spell of games where pretty much everyone except Luke Shaw was fit. I know Hoyland didn't start the season fit, but then he came. It's not been perfect by any means, but it's been a lot less interrupted by injury than last season was. And now we've got some extra injuries on top of that. Maguire's out for a bit, Maynard's out for a bit, Ugati's not 100%, Luke Shaw's still out and will be till the next international break somehow. Malacia's still out, obviously still recovering. You've got other people who maybe aren't fully fit as well. Mazraoui's out with his after he's had a sort of procedure on his heart. So we're now like, we were here in terms of injuries, and now we're here, and we're expecting to make the performances better as a result of that. Like, we need to improve on the pitch from what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 games. How's that? That's not going to happen, is it? Do you think? I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth there. Do you think, looking at these fixtures and looking at just this general time between now and the next international break, do you think we're going to turn it around? Because the odds are, for me, getting slimmer and slimmer.
I'm not going to lie, I am worried, definitely, because the midfield issue is an issue, and the lack of goals, obviously, we've mentioned it. I think defensively, we've not looked amazing. We've conceded 3 goals in, I think, consecutive home games, so there's obviously issues there, plus 3 away in Porto as well. So obviously defensive issues too. But you look at the personnel that's available defensively, you think, okay, other than the left back, we look quite like we've got some decent players there. It feels like, I don't know whether it's just my heart rather than my head thinking, I look at it and think we could still do this. We could.
I look at this, right, honestly, you just mentioned them injuries, and normally you go, fucking hell, you've got loads of injuries. I think, right, so that means they're not playing. They've played in the last few games where we've been shit. So I'm mentally going, that's a good thing. And that's just what happens with supporting United at the minute. I think, right, so we've got some injuries, so new people are coming in, and we might actually start playing well.
We might accidentally find the right combination.
Even though really we shouldn't. We should fucking be worse.
Sometimes as well with United, and even like post-Fergie, we've had these moments. Like, I remember the Burnley game, we lost 2-0 to Burnley, and everyone was like, Ollie's done, he's going to get sacked with 6 points off top 4. Just lost at home to Sean Dyche's Burnley. It's a disaster. We're terrible. Everything's rubbish. And then we went on a mad run and ended up finishing 3rd. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but sometimes when you do think, not all the time, but sometimes United, you think, oh, this is it. It's
they just come up with that bit of magic.
Yeah, like even like with Van Gaal, when the wheels came off, and yet we still managed to win an FA Cup in that season. You know, when you thought, even last season, everyone thought last season is a complete disastrous season, like, it's just horrible, but it ends with one of the best moments I've had as a Red.
Like, how good was that FA Cup?
It was amazing, wasn't it? And that is genuine. I'm not trying to just over exaggerate just for the sake of it, but in all honesty, one of the best days I've had as a Red was that FA Cup final.
It's on the list of like best moments.
I think it was so tactically in that game we fucking nailed
everything.
That was why it was so good.
Tactically,
scoring,
performance, like it wasn't a smash and grab. I wouldn't care if it was, if we'd won. It was a pretty dominant performance where we turned up and they pretty much didn't. We got our tactics right.
Yeah, we were way better than them in the first half, and they were slightly better than us in the second half.
Yeah.
But that first half, we won us the game, and rightly so. Like,
It was
I think they
just-
had one shot on target in the first half.
Yeah.
So, like, anyway,
It was.
we can relive that.
That's,
time.
no, but you know that's the thing, and it's a trait with United, isn't it? When you think we're done, when you think this is it, there's nowhere left to go. We turn up and exceed expectations. So I still hold on to that, and it might just be my heart talking rather than my head, and I might end up with egg on my face or whatever. But I do think that. Yeah, why not?
We've just got to get through the first 2 minutes against Brentford, haven't we? Because, you know, if we do, then I think I'll take that at the minute because they score early doors.
Like Brian and Buemo scores after 45 seconds.
And we
the crowd turns. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh my God.
But if we get through 3 minutes and they cut to the management team, they'd be like, fucking yeah, we've done it. Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah. This is what it's come to. Can we survive the first 2 minutes against Brentford?
I know.
I don't think it is going to turn around.
Okay.
I don't know why.
You're usually right.
I know.
Not just on this channel, but in the United fan base, you've got a reputation for being the most positive and optimistic person there is.
Toxic positivity,
which I admire.
Is that what it is?
But no, you do well with it because you make a good case. But when we lose Joe Smith, we've lost.
So do you see the manager going then?
I think he will, yeah.
In the next international break?
Yeah.
All right then. Who's coming in? Have you already spoke about this?
No,
this is old news.
I know people go moan because we talk about it a lot, but it is a lot of topic.
I think it'll be Van Nistelrooy short term, but I don't think they'll say to the end of the season. I think they'll say on an interim basis while we conduct a search for the next permanent manager. Right. I don't think they'll put a label of.
They should know by now, though, shouldn't they? If as in a name.
But I think they'll want. They won't want to get someone who is available this season. I honestly think part of the reason why Ten Hag is still here is because now is a horrible time to sack a manager because there's too long left. If United do well in some cups,
I know what you mean.
There's still, minimum. There's still 40 games left this season.
We could still win the league.
We could still win the league, obviously.
Mathematically. It's not impossible.
But you bring a new coach in now, they could feasibly have a season where we finish. Obviously, we'd be improving slightly on our current position. But if you finish 8th in that first season... And
it's a failure.
It's a failure.
Yeah,
You've already failed the season you came in, having been given a duff hand. But there's so long left. Well, he still could have done well in the Europa. The FA Cup hadn't even started yet. The Carabao, we were still in that. The fact that... you know what I mean? Like, a manager could feasibly come in now and have a career-ending season before they've even had a pre-season. That's you don't want to do that.
No, true.
Things either need to be so bad that they can only get better, or they've got an interim push it, and then you give them the last 10 games of the season.
We need to be definitely out of the cups, definitely out of the league.
Yeah, because
and then you put him in.
I know it was slightly later when he came in, but there was a bit of that with Ragnick, wasn't there, when he came in, and Carrick did really well.
Yeah.
When he was the interim or the caretaker, sorry. Ragnick came in, and then the wheels came off almost immediately. I know we beat Palace in his first game.
I liked him, you know.
I know.
I
didn't like the football. I liked his attitude.
I just loved how honest he was. He was so good.
But the trouble was, we went out of the Champions League straight away. We went out of the Carabao or the FA Cup, whatever. Both. It was just everything went wrong, didn't it? And then we were out of the top 4 race almost immediately. So it was difficult to watch. But yeah, I get your point.
I think if they're going regarding if they do get rid of Ten Hag and they do put Van Nistelrooy in and getting a manager you always see it on the news and stuff like that, but who's available, and then I think it might have been Webby I've seen on here. I can't remember if he's on here or I've seen him on something else, and he was saying, but just go out and get the manager you want. They don't have to be available.
He told me when I saw him after the Spurs game. I hope you don't mind me telling this because it was just a conversation we had. I'm sure you won't. And he said, just go out and get Emery. He said, go out and throw a load of dough at Villa and get Emery. Now I know it's a bit reactionary. We just lost and he's fuming, but I understand your point.
But the idea is right, though.
Emery, but go out and get someone.
Yeah, because you do it with players. I know you have transfer windows with players, so it's different. But if I don't know. If United want to go and buy a top player, they're never available.
Yeah.
A club would never say, "Oh, Mbappe's available now." You go out and you make an offer and you test the water, and then eventually you get to a deal and you go, "We're taking him within a transfer window." But with managers, it's just that idea where, "Oh no, there's no one available at the minute. There's no one out of a job," and then I just think, well, if they're out of a job, they've either been fucking sacked, or which 90% of the time that's what happens, or they've left. So then I think, well, if they're out of a job, then they're obviously out of a job for a reason. But why not go and pay your money for your manager? I remember Fergie always saying the manager's the most important person at the club.
Yeah.
Well, and I know they don't sell shirts, so you don't recoup some of that outlay back, but their wages are less than a player's wages. And if it is the most important person at a club, go and spend £30 million on a manager, which is peanuts for a player nowadays.
Especially
but if it's the most important person, £30 million should be fuck all, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
But now it's seen as like a massive amount.
Yeah. My worry is they don't know who they want.
Yeah.
That's my big fear. I worry that if every manager, I mean, let's take the ones who literally would never manage United. Let's take Pep and Arteta and Klopp off the table.
Yeah.
If every manager was available on earth, I don't know if they've got a number one. I'm not saying they haven't. Obviously, I'm not privy to behind the scenes, but that's my worry is they don't really know.
Yeah.
And like Thomas Frank seems to be near the top of the list, and Southgate was mentioned, but I don't think that's a feat that's certainly not agreed upon by the whole sort of ownership. But I worry that it's a bit like, I don't know, what we've seen a little bit with sort of Labour since they've come in, where it almost feels like, well, go on then, now's your chance. What's the plan here?
we don't know.
And we don't know, and maybe that's just because they've hidden it well. But it seemed like Tuchel was the first choice in the summer if they were going to sack Ten Hag, and then that didn't happen, and then he's gone to England, so that's gone now, isn't it? But if I don't even know if they know. That's a big worry for me. Who is the first choice?
Though, because we've apparently Jim Ratcliffe has gone and got the best available people in those jobs, those roles, whether it's a CEO or in charge of youth development or whatever it might be. We've apparently gone and got the best that there is and put them in these roles. So I'm quietly confident they do know who they want.
I hope so.
But maybe we just have to wait, or maybe they want Ten Hag and they want it to turn around and they want to do it. We don't know, but you'd hope that with all the money they've spent on them, they know what they're doing. But I don't know, it's football, isn't it? You
make a point, like, the trouble with managers now is, where are they at in their season? Like, most managers who you're looking at, you'd think you could go, you'd want to get, they'll be getting, as the season draw, carries on, they'll be getting to the stages in their club that are at now where they are challenging for trophies. They are in that stage of cup competition.
Yeah.
So you're gonna, do they want to leave and take that risk when they might be in the middle of a title race in Germany, or they might be in the Champions League knockout stages? Yeah. I know it's different now with the whole league system, but they might be, have a chance in Europe or whatever. They might be like, well, I'm not going to leave now to go to what looks like an absolute car crash when I could be on my way to doing something. So, yeah, you
should need someone to sell them the dream, don't they?
Yeah.
Just sell the dream.
Send Ed Woodward, he was good at that, wasn't he?
We need Ten Hag.
Did that with Klopp, didn't he?
I've loved Ten Hag to turn it around.
I know, that's what you want.
Much.
We want Ten Hag. We all want that, don't we? We all. Like, I've never been of the opinion like, it's better if we lose and then he'll go. No, none of that. I want him to turn it around. Yeah. The issue I've got is my enthusiasm isn't what it was for him. I'll be honest.
He's not confident.
If Joe loses, if Joe loses confident, I went well before that.
I still stand by what I've said before. Is I'd give him to the end of the season. I'd give him this year, and regardless, unless like we're 17th and we might go down. But like,
would be interesting in a championship.
But also, like, start doing aways again, me. If we was in the championship,
a lot of top teams around the northwest where you'd be going.
I'd definitely be doing 60 games a season.
But if unless it's that, I'd just give him this year, because then you can get a new manager in the summer when managers are more available. If that is a concern, you're definitely certain that he's not the right guy there. There'll be no question marks about. You can't have 2 awful years in a row. Like, I don't think anyone's going to accept that. So I'd give him that. But I just, looking at those fixtures and the fact that the squad is only getting weaker, I don't see how it's going to turn around. But what I will say is, I don't want to be drawn into, should he get sacked after this game, after every game. I'm going to stick to the line of, give him till the international break, at least. The international break. Right. I would do the end of the season, but I know that's not reasonable. Give him these 7 games. Let's see what happens there. No matter what. Not going to. No way should he go before that now. Give him those games, and then we can work it out.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they're winnable games, aren't they?
I'd like to see that. I don't think you'd lose anything by doing that. I think it's probably the best approach. Yeah. Jim, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
What's
yeah,
next
cheers.
on the horizon? I know we've dragged you away from the studio, so we appreciate you coming in.
We've finished recording our next album, which is out in March. We're mixing it now, so then that'll be ticked off. Got another single out in November, so hopefully you'll invite me back and I can chat shit about that.
What's the single out in November? What's it called? Do you know?
Can I say that? I don't know if I can say.
Oh right, I don't want.
It's not legal yet.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
Begins with an A.
Right, we know what it is.
After Hours.
Nice. That's what I was going to say.
Is it called
Could
that?
be. No.
Anodine Extra.
Almost.
Anodine Extra. This is Anodine Extra. I've got a headache.
Well, get involved in the chat in the comments and let us know what you think.
Guess what the single's
Guess
called.
what the Slow Readers Club next single is going to be. We'll have Jim back on in November and he can tell us all about that single. Also, as well, a big thank you to Green King Sport for sponsoring his podcast. That's been Jim. That's been Joe. I've been Jay. This has been Off the Bar. Thanks for watching.
Is it called Andre Onana?
It's called